Above all, a destination that wants to be open to the creative tourism has to be led by tourism professionals that are creative themselves. This is the other definition of the creative tourism, is to be creative themselves. What do we mean by creativity? We don't mean to invent anything. We just mean that to create or to recreate something, to recycle the existing components, and to create a new story, new emotion on the basis of the existing resources. This is what I've done. This destination, I just selected some among our network. Ibiza. We know all Ibiza for the nightclub. There is very linked to their branding. But Ibiza has also a background, and with the artists, a lot of artists that have been there in the 70s and that still have a great potential for that. Austria, see the typical tourism of landscape and winter season. This is the skyline of Bangkok. This is a market of Guatemala. The coast in Catalonia, close to Barcelona. Porto Alegre in Brazil. Canada, a village on the river Saint Laurent. A village in Provence, Biot. And Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia. All those destinations are very different. I would challenge you to see what they could have in common. But they all decided to open themselves to the creative tourism and to propose a new way of visiting them, a new way of experiencing them. So those are some proposals they are sharing, and in those pictures we see that it's now difficult to guess which one is the destination. This is because they have passed from the what, which was above all in Europe, what guided all the tourists for the last decades. You've decided to visit this city because it has the tallest bridge, because it has the oldest tower, to the how, the way you visit a destination, to finally achieve the wow, which is the emotion provoked by the fact that you are involved in the creative tourism. This implies the storytelling for each destination. They have to really act with that and to involve the locals. This also implies that the destination have to be aware that small is beautiful. The creative tourists nowadays and the travelers don't look for very spectacular monuments. They do look for authenticity, and authenticity is in the small things. They also have to incorporate the do-it-yourself. Well, this is what happened in Barcelona, for instance. I don't know if you know the city. This is just a sample of the architecture from Gaudí. Of course, Gaudí and Barcelona in this aspect doesn't need the creative tourism to attract a lot of tourists. But they have to answer a new demand that is not just, that don't just have enough with visiting the monuments, but also ask for this kind of workshops. This is quite recent. This is about 5 years ago that appeared a lot of proposals of this kind that are mosaic workshops, that are ceramic workshops, that propose the visitors to imitate the genius that created and lived in the city, because they want much more proactivity. Another point important is to be able to do it in a place, that has certain heritage, like this flat of artists. Other programs all over the world have made the same approach. In this case, in Austria, this is a group of hotels that wanted to attract a new kind of customers, but not further customers, much local customers. I mean, they tried to keep people, Austrian, that just live 2 hours from the hotels, to propose them new offers for the weekend associated to creative workshops, be they ceramic workshops, cooking classes. And they really achieved it, because those people would have never been at the hotel just 2 hours from their home. But by this way, they really created a branding that had a lot of visibility, and they attracted more people in the low season. This is another case in Provence, in the south of France. This is the typical village that already had very strong heritage for the arts. Lots of artists, Picasso itself and Matisse, lived there and created there, and there are still a lot of artists. But actually, nowadays the activities were just limited to the fact of selling art pieces to the people that that visited the art studios on the Sunday afternoon with the grandmother. But of course, it was not sufficient. So they decided from the tourist board to recycle all those proposals and to involve all the artists and craftsmen in a program of creative tourism to propose workshop from 1 hour to 1 week. And they sell them to different targets. One of them are the team building, and it works very well. So during 1 week, staff from banks and from company go to this village and foster the creativity by participating in a wide array of workshops, like cooking classes, glass blowing workshops, photographic routes. And this way, the handicraft and, of course, the hotels, the restaurants, and all the village is working out of the high season thanks to this new program. Investment, zero, quite. Well, they just created a section in the website, but all the other elements, they already had them. They just recreated a story and a new offer thanks to those elements. Those are pictures of those employees, fostering the creativity in these weeks. Ibiza, I was telling, it is very associated to the Pasha and to the nightclub of this brand. But this only limited on 2 months, the July and August. So Ibiza does need to work all year long because they have a lot of employees there, they have a lot of hotel infrastructure. But the climate doesn't allow that the people will go there for the sun and beaches all year long because it's too cold. So they have also reorganized all the resources they have with people from the countryside showing and teaching handicrafts with, for instance, this White House, which is given by the city council in order to organize cooking classes, with the handicraft with the hippies that still live there, with underwater video workshop that can be adapted to most of your destinations as well. And for the people that still want to go to Ibiza for the nightclub, they also organize workshops to be a DJ. So you won't go to Ibiza to go to a nightclub, but you'll mix yourself your own platform. This works very well as well. For instance, for targets like the singles, because in Spain, all the Spanish people that go to Ibiza, of course, they go during the summer. Then once they have enjoyed the summer and the beaches and the fiesta, they won't go during the winter. And actually, the transport is they are like half an hour, so it's very short. And the fact that they are proposed to go to Ibiza to make a creative stay, a creative weekend for singles group or very specific groups, allows that the tourism sector works all year long thanks to these new proposals. In this case, the same happens. There is no investment. The hotel already exists and the resources as well. In Thailand, that also has a great potential for traditions and for know-how. They really, till now, only received conventional circuit, like conventional tourists making the same routes and gathering the same days on the same monuments. So they decided for people willing to repeat their stay in Thailand, which is most of the case because they are very friendly, you want to discover a little bit more of their culture, to create a platform as well devoted to the creative tourism. I mean, not just find isolated experiences while opening the Lonely Planet, and you have in a corner with a Lonely Planet is fantastic, but in this case it was just the must-seen visits and then the possibility to take part in a boxing workshop or in a cooking class. So they say, we want now that the creative tourism to be one purpose for the people to visit Thailand and to really enjoy the Thainess. This is by the way, the brand they created, and discover the culture in another way. The same happens to Guatemala. Guatemala, it's all the tourists meet in the market of Chichicastenango the same days. They take picture in ways that are not very educated sometimes. So some program decided to work more with the communities. This is very closer to other program of community tourism, by the way. But they really involve the tourists in the participation of workshops related to the cacao, the cafe, or to teach them how to weave their own textile. Another case is the case of Saint-Jean-Port-Joli. It's a village in Quebec, which had an heritage and traditions for the sculpture. A lot of sculptors used to live there. But it decreased a little bit, and the destination had a little bit now an old-fashioned image, an old-fashioned branding. So they decided to clean all that and to become creative village of Saint-Jean-Port-Joli. Why? How? Involving the same artists, but in new proposals and trying to target the youth tourists, the millennials. They achieved it. And this summer, they just launched the program last May, and this summer they already greeted all the groups of youth travelers, experiencing a lot of workshops like dance, like sculpture, like photographic routes, and that contributed as well to renew the branding of the destination. That attracted already a lot of all the kind of traveler that had forgotten this destination. Cerdeira, it's another case. It's a village in Portugal that had been abandoned and that had been bought by private to create artistic residencies. So now the travelers can go there and all create by themselves and just feeling inspired by the incredible landscape, or take part in masterclass and in workshop in all the discipline. Lole, it's another case of this, that it's in South Portugal, in the region of Algarve, very close to the zone of the coast, and the zone of the coast of South Portugal attracts a lot of people for the beaches, but just stay in the coast. And Lole, it's at about 10 minutes for that, and it has a very rich heritage, very rich traditions, but that are forgotten now because they are not practiced, and all the know-how all are being lost. So they created a program called Lole Creativo, not only in a tourism way, that means, of course, it is devoted to the tourism activity, but also as a branding, as a creative hub to involve a lot of local operators that are not necessarily from the tourism sector, but that are from the creative industry. They open a school to work on all those traditions that has to be preserved. And they are really dynamizing the local economy through this program. So it's to see that how the tourism sector can be extended very limited. Sant Feliu de Guíxols is another place close to Barcelona. It's also a destination of sun and beaches in which all the French people, the families, go in summertime, but it's very limited in time because the climate is just good 1 month enough, and in terms of activities because they didn't have a lot of attractions until now. So they created also creative tourism program from the resources they have, that are the fishermen. So they propose the tourists to work with to go with the fishermen to fish their own fish. Then they are brought to the markets, in which they can cook and learn how to cook and sell their anchovies. They bring them at home, or to learn how to make the desserts, which are very typical of there. Earthserve, it's a tour operator, well, based in Japan, that are also designing new experiences of creative tourism that can be from learning how to cook traditional Japanese food in a very contemporary flat with a woman who is not professional. She's a local people. And as well as to go out from the cities and go to eco farm and spend one day in an eco farm and being themselves involved in the daily works. So there are, I'm really summing up because there are many experiences around that. In Costa Rica, they decided to create this program with a first purpose of offering language courses. I mean, they say, okay, we would like to, they first had a language school, but they wanted to open a little bit the target because the adults now wanted also to be trained, not just only trainings for the teenagers or language academies. So they combined the language tourism with the creative tourism, and they are now offering stays in which the people can learn Spanish, as well as cooking tortilla or making a lot of experiences along the weeks, that can be weeks or months, because we know that learning a language takes a while. Easy Frascati is another program in the area of Rome, for people that repeat their stay in Rome and want to see something else. They propose a lot of experiences related to the wine tourism. Wine tourism is a very successful one in Europe nowadays. People pay to work on the vineyards, which is difficult to understand for the old generation, that there are tourists interested in paying to work, but it's really, the results are here. Studia in Italia is another program of this, to learn Italian while learning how to make shoes in Firenze, in Toscana, for instance, or to make jewelry. Porto Alegre is also an operation to attract more tourists and to create a branding, because Porto Alegre is in Brazil, but of course a little bit far from the topics of Brazil, the samba, well, all the best, the top ranking destination of Brazil. And they wanted to differentiate through their culture, their local culture and their traditions, which is very linked to the Gaucha culture. So what a better way to do it than through the creative tourism, because they propose the tourists in a huge city as it's Porto Alegre to participate in a great selection of activities like learning how to make a churrasco, which is the barbecue, in learning the traditional dances, in making your traditional clothes, or even your postcard, as you can see on the picture. In Barcelona, it is where we started in 2005, because we had this new demand of artistic groups that were already practicing creative activities in their countries and wanted to make it in Barcelona, but they didn't have an interlocutor at this moment, because they addressed the city council. Of course, also for us it's difficult to find the right person within the city council, so for them it was quite impossible. They addressed the tourist board, but there were no, of course, at this time, a program created to satisfy their demand. So we, as a cultural foundation, created this platform in order to really respond to all of their specific needs. So from all those examples, what we can sum up about the creative tourism assets, it's The fact that it enables the diversification of the tourism offers without any investment, just by optimizing existing tangible and intangible heritage, as well as infrastructures. It has positive effects upon the profitability of the cultural infrastructures. This is the case, for instance, in Barcelona, in Europe, and I'm sure that in the Caribbean it would work very well, of the performing tours. The performing tours, maybe you know, are those tour operators that have as customers all the Yours choir, the Yours orchestra, that many of them comes from the United States because they are very well organized also to achieve budgets during the year. And they want to travel by performing concerts in each place they visit. But the core of the travel is the concert. So they need to have someone in each destination that really understands their needs in terms of the organization of the concerts. And then, of course, they stay at the hotels, and they are very numerous, at least 30, 40 people, but generally more like 100. So it's very interesting for the destinations because they spend in hotels, they spend in restaurants, they spend in venues because they rent theaters. In Barcelona, they are renting the really most prestigious theaters we have, or opera. They rent instruments, so it's a very interesting target for all of us. And I'm sure that the Caribbean, with all the good connections you have from the United States, could be a nice place. Lots of plantation, lots of public square as well. And of course, the climate enables to do it all year long. So that's another reason why the creative tourism is important, because we can attract also this kind of tourists. It's another assets is the quality tourism. It's a quality tourism endowed with a high value and purchasing power. And of course, it fosters the authenticity and sustainability of the destination, because the creative tourists really doesn't like the fakes, so it will always demand something very authentic. It has also positive effect on the self-confidence of the locals, that once they are aware of their potential and while they see that foreign people are very interested by their own heritage and their traditions, so it contributes to preserve and to maintain those traditions. Of course, it has a deseasonalization character, which is very important for Europe, maybe not so much for you, because all the year is good time for here. And also geographical outsourcing, so it contributes to distribute the creative tourists on all the territory. It is important then because the creativity acts as a universal attribute and offers a democratic access to all the local communities, to the tourism sectors, that enables them not to be limited to low-skilled or low-paying workplaces, but maybe to launch their own micro project through micro-entrepreneurship. I'm thinking about the person who are organizing cooking classes, for instance. So she'll be she'll be more self-confident because she's doing something she likes that is very evaluated by the tourists, and she can also find a balance with the family life, which maybe I wouldn't find in another place. So how to manage the creative tourism? Actually, I'm sorry, but I won't give you the perfect recipe, because there is no. The most important is for each destination to adapt it to its reality. It's not to try to copy another destination, because it wouldn't work. So what we did in Barcelona, to give you some idea, we created a portal, a website in which we put some of those experiences, like cooking classes, dance classes, photographic routes, in all the sectors. But after some selection regarding their quality, their authenticity, and all those criteria. I mean, it's not another Groupon. I don't have anything against Groupon, but we are not in this approach. All those experiences have been created with the local operators, with the tourist professionals, with the handicrafts, and that. And on the other side, another part of our services in Barcelona is to help those creative tourism that needs on-demand services to achieve their specific project. So it can be in terms of concerts, as I was telling you. This is the kind of places those performing tours rent for the concerts, to meet the local artists in their art studios, to join a wide array of classes. This is, for instance, a project we made for a group of students from a university of UK that wanted to discover the creativity of Barcelona, of the neighborhoods. But of course, all the art studios are not open all the day to the public. They're just artists working on their art studios. So we organized the route with all those artists, and we enabled those tourists to enter this kind of universe. And it was so special for them to be able to enter in such a place that I also scored it more than the visit of the Sagrada Familia, which is the best expression of the architect Gaudi, because it was a very unique experience that hasn't been repeated at any time, because all those artists only accepted once. By the same time, during the same day of visit, we proposed the tourists to take pictures of all the itinerary they did, and to send us 1 or 2 copies of them. And by night, we organized an exhibition in the cultural center of the city with the press, with the local people, with a lot of representatives of the cultural sectors. And those people that in the morning were tourists, like other tourists, were the protagonists by night, thanks to this exhibition. That also offered an interesting feedback for the locals that saw their neighborhood in another view. Well, the idea is to offer on-demand services as well. Like, well, in this case, it was for a concert in Barcelona, in which we had to make the communication and to try to achieve audience when in a night there were match of soccer. That was quite impossible, but of course, a director of orchestra that comes from the United States for a concert would not understand that there is no audience because of the soccer. So we as local operators try to achieve, to remediate that. This role of really being like producer of those experiences can be held by the tourist board itself, or by, of course, by inbound agency, which is what happens in a lot of destinations, in operators, that in addition to offer the same excursions that they have, are adding a new niche, a new offer to the customers. Other programs of our network that have worked the same way, well, they have created a website in which they put all the offers, and you can choose and buy them depending on your profile, if you are a single, a family, a group. This is Porto Alegre, Ibiza, Biot. You can also select if you are a beginner in painting, for instance, or someone that already has skill. And if you want the course in French, in English, well, so the language. I pass quickly. This is all those programs. But, as I said, this is not another Groupon. The website is just the channel to join the local with the global. But inside of that, it has to be a very you have to work locally. The approach is different. In most of the destination, well, until now, we had the previous idea of the destination we wanted to go, and then we visited the website at the section what to do there. In this sense, all these travelers are really open to all kind of destination. We've seen that it can be very different from village to cities, from beaches to rural areas. So the only thing they want is to be understood and to have an interlocutor that had thought what they would want. So the approach is what I want to do, how I want to do it, and then I find all the destinations that are creative friendly, that are working in this way. It all relies on visibility and branding, of course. So the recipe to have great and sustainable experiences to offer to the creative tourists. They have to be creative, they have to be authentical, and they have to have some interactivity. The creative tourists need to participate. It doesn't just not conform with the visit, the guided visit. So what do we mean by creativity? I told it is not just like the creative buzz. It doesn't mean design, fashion, cool, trendy, hipster, arty. It is not neither a marketing gimmick. We are not thinking about making an operation like the one we see on the slide. It is not this kind of experiences at all, no. But it is not packaging at all. Creativity is create new stories, new emotion, as we tell it. What about the authenticity? Authenticity is sharing a daily life activities with the locals, is doing it in a quite improvised place. Everything can be some informal, but of course taking into account the questions of safety, of security, of timing as well. And it has to be as well characteristic of the holiday destination where they are taken, because it doesn't fit that to learn how to make sushi in Paris, for instance. So the creative tourists are very demanding of that. So I think I will have to go a little bit more quickly, and there are examples we have seen. The idea is to create new stories, and I do want to go to arrive to what's happening in the Caribbean. So what's happening in the Caribbean? Everything is happening. I could find in all your websites many activities that are already there are activities of creative tourism. Of course, you can take Caribbean dance lessons, painting class, Creole cooking, photography, underwater photography workshop, aromatherapy, craft workshop, music workshop, everything. So it's just to invite now the new tourists, those creative tourists, to spend holidays just for this purpose. This is the postcard empty of all those activities. And now we see that in Bermuda, for instance, they offer the opportunity to create in paradise. These are all examples I have found in your website or in Google, looking for workshop, creative class, and this. So in Bermuda, you can make your mosaic workshop in a paradise. You can make some activities in a plantation, like renting it as well for your creative events. You can make a jewelry workshop. Of course, it's really summing up because I found many more. In the British Virgin Island, you can take a class to try to experience, to feel as a Moko Jambis. You can take a workshop of basketry, of ceramic. They also rent you an art studio. If you want to feel inspired by the creative atmosphere, you can go there and co-create and create and be inspired. And of course, being involved in Carnival. Well, in most of the slides I'm going to show, Carnival is, of course, recurrent. This is a great potential you have. And for instance, I attended the Carnival in Guadalupe. I really loved it, but I was a little bit frustrated because I wanted to follow the encompasses. And I'm pretty sure that if you propose a project of, I know that the preparation of the carnival lasts 1 year, but I don't know who, which tourists could stay 1 year in an island to prepare the carnival. I would like, but I'm not sure it's possible. But in 1 week, if you teach the tourists to learn how to make them up, to learn some passes of the dances, of the choreography, to learn how to customize the disguise, the clothing, and you propose them to create an encompass with all the other tourists to follow them and maybe make competitions of tourists. So you are generating new products with something you already have, no? And at the same time, you're educating as well the tourists because, for instance, in Europe, most of the traditional festivals in villages or in cities are a little bit losing their interest because the tourist doesn't know them, doesn't understand them. They are just in the middle. They don't know how to behave, and they are losing their interest. So this is a way of covering all those aspects, and I'm sure that it would find the target. In Anguilla, so they also have a great carnival, of course. Festivals. Festivals are very important because you all have very impressive festivals in your destinations. And sometimes it's to convert a local festival to an international one or to attract tourists to the festival, it's just organizing masterclass. And people, instead of people that are already interested in music, for instance, instead of just attending one concert, will come 1 week or two because there is a masterclass with one of the artists that are programmed. So also economically, it's very interesting. You can meet economical scale in this sense. Percussion workshops and well, other festivals. Cayman Islands. Well, I talked with the responsibles before, you saw it. Many things as well. And by the way, I found in the international press some releases about festivals that are attracted people like tourists or people that already practice creative activities to not just spend a night in the festival, but spend much more, no? Montserrat, it's another island that also has traditions of carnival in which we can involve the tourists, but also very unique landscapes in which it's possible to organize photographic workshops and specifics with the tourists. Turk and Caicos Islands, well, the same. The crafts are very developed, so you can customize all those pieces we can see on the pictures. You can participate in food and wine festivals, so not just tasting, but also participating in cooking classes. You can make a workshop of soap, to make your own soap with the salt. You can make a medical brush workshop or aromatherapy. So a very wide range of possibilities as well. Bonaire is another one in which you can customize your statues, like the one we find here in Curacao, the Shishi, in which the tourists can paint their own all those statues. You can customize as well the clothing, participate in photo and video courses, or in a cocktail workshop. In Saint Eustatius, you can also discover the traditionals and the folklore through some possibility of workshops, the percussion, dance, and carnival. The same in Saint Martin, where you can elaborate your own punch, and so you go about not with the punch that you have bought at the airport the last time, but with your own one. And you can learn how to use the spices in the cooking or to make some batik. In Saint-Martin, the same, and you can also, for instance, elaborate your own perfume at the Tijon Parfumerie. That is, whose main activity is to create perfume and to sell them, but they also organize workshops of this way. Saint-Martin is also associated to be the island of the painters, as they sell. So there are a wide range of painters that open their art studios and organize creative stays, creative holidays on the island. La Guadeloupe is another one of these in which we can find these offers of linguistic and tourism, which is interesting as well, as being so close to the United States, so huge country in which they quite speak, well, one language. So they have the Caribbean here, so close with this diversity of languages that can offer them another options. Guadeloupe, you can, well, take cooking classes, dancing classes, carnival, cacao. La Martinique, also very special for aromatherapy, so activities at the Museum of the Banana, where you can make some workshop linked to the use of the banana. Of course, workshops of dances and literature. I put here the picture of a friend of mine, Joseph Zobel, that well, is a figure of La Martinique, was a figure of La Martinique. Cuba, well, I'm sorry, I fell into the cliche of salsa and dance, but they are really a destination of creative tourists. What happened is that most of the creative tourists that go there went through their dance school, the European dance school that organized 1 week or stay in Cuba to improve and to practice the dance. But of course, they could give more visibility to all those options through another program. Venezuela, in which you can also customize your own dolls. As you can see, you can paint your own dolls. And you can create your own arepa. It means they teach you how to make the base of the arepa, but there are cooking classes and cooking workshops in which they offer you the possibility to be creative through the elaboration of arepa. Puerto Rico, in which they propose you cheese making workshop. So it's also very original and maybe unexpected for this kind of destinations. And as well as to work, well, to participate in workshops with local artists to create your own postcard by painting them, and of course, taking part in salsa classes. US Virgin Island, also a big choice of cooking classes, so we can see on the pictures of ceramic and all the aspects linked to the carnival. Antigua and Barbuda, also workshop of jewelry, of making cocktails, and steel bands and well, percussion. The Bahamas, well, the Bahamas, it's a little bit more focused on this kind of tourism because above all they have been awarded by the UNESCO Creative Cities. Nassau is Creative City of the Crafts. So they are now developing as well this kind of tourism through the workshops of craft and all the activities linked to the craft. Barbados, well, in the same way, they offer you possibility to take part in crafts, in dance workshops or percussions. In Belize, the same. You can learn embroideries, you can learn local jewelry, cooking classes or percussions. In Dominica, this is an exceptional as well context to learn how to paint or to create. We can see in art studios in the nature, while using all the resources of the nature itself, or taking part in also aromatherapy workshop to learn all the spaces of plants, and other well activities linked to the crafts. Pure Granada, in which we'll find activities linked to the carnival, which is very specific, the Curacao carnival, and of course all the activities with the spices. We can see a workshop. This is a workshop to elaborate cinnamon and to conserve it and bring it in your luggage, and well, percussions. Guyana, well, I had the chance to be informed personally by Mrs. Minister and Mr. Director of Transport of this very interesting project, which are very linked to the ecotourism because, well, they are part of a lodge, but they also incorporate some creative activities. There is the Surama Eco Lodge, the Rewa Eco Lodge, anyway, we can find it on the website. And well, they cannot be more authentic, of course, and more creative. Jamaica, of course, it's the platform of the music, but through this kind of platform, of creative tourism platform, it could be extended as well to other activities. St. Kitts and Nevis, where you can take a cooking class and make a quiet luxury in Nevis. This was articles I took from the diary. Or also to take part in workshops linked to the carnival and making your dolls. Santa Lucia, well, there is a huge and prestigious festival of jazz and arts that is really open to other kind of activities and participative activities. And I also had the chance to discover this very interesting proposal. You have here the owner of the Jet Resort, so tomorrow she will give you further details, but it's very an incentive one because it's a creative tourism proposal very targeted to the premium tourism. I mean, it's chocolate live. You can elaborate your own Fuji and discover all the process of the cacao and the chocolate, but in a very luxury atmosphere. So we are not just targeting to the tourists in general, but also all kind of tourists. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in which there are also festival, very multicultural festival, the Breadfruit one, in which the tourists could be involved through cooking classes or concerts, in which you can also take part of the percussion sessions. Trinidad and Tobago, of course, it's the best place to practice the steel bands. There are a lot of schools that are already dealing with that, but not so in a way to open it to the tourists. So just we have one step to convert it in a package and to attract new tourists in this destination through this kind. This is not the only one. There is also the naive painting or the carnival. Haiti is the other destination. Creative city by the UNESCO in Jacmel, in which they are developing all the crafts. I think they are also working in a way to offer a creative activity for the cruise, which is quite new because they don't have the same rhythm as the creative tourist, but it could be complementary. And Curacao, of course, which is, well, I had the chance to visit it and to experience it the last weekend, and I found it a very ideal place to develop this kind of tourism. Why? Well, because the only website proposes you culture, creativity, experiences. It involves you by putting, I'm curious about. So he wants you to feel curious about Curacao and to help you with all the proposals. There are existing proposals like the one of the customizing the chichi, which is this artist, local artist, Nena Serenas, that create them, and they open a workshop in which the tourists can go in a plantation out of the center of Willemstad and make their own. But of course, that could be much more. For instance, the central market that ends at 3 in the afternoon, I think, could be open in the afternoon, like to organize cooking classes. I'm sure that the tourists will love that. So many possibilities. So now we know that we all have this potential to attract the creative tourists. How to reach them? Who are them? They are not very collaborators. They say, we are not tourists, we are creative tourists. But why? So it's quite difficult to define them because they want to be unique. So they can be solo, couple, family. In definitive, they are all travelers. They can plan their trip themselves. That's why it's very important to have a platform in which they can pick up all the experiences independently or to contract professional services. And the nature of their Creative activities can be educational. This is the most of one, like workshop classes, or creation for more experimented artists, like arts residencies, co-creation, or representation through the performing concerts. Their common line, they want to experience the local culture by participating in artistic and creative activities. They want to live experiences whereby they can feel themselves as a local. It's what we saw in all those examples. They do not look for monumentality or spectacularity. They are prosumer and they share the experiences on the social media. They won't put a picture of them in front of the Tour Eiffel, but they will upload a video of them cooking a special dish. No? They spend a substantial part of their budget for the fulfillment of their activities. This is, for instance, also for backpackers that will maybe stay in a hostel paying very, I don't know, 20 euros, something very, very low cost, but they won't hesitate in spending 60 euro for a cooking class. So that's very curious. They used to combine many types of tourists, so in all your destination you already have many segments you can combine with the creative tourism, and they are exclusive regarding the way of traveling. Once they have experienced this kind of traveling, this kind of exploring a destination, they don't want to be passive. We started 5 years ago, we started before, but 5 years ago there were still people very specialized in a creative activity that already practiced it in their country. And nowadays, it's more the tourists in general that want to incorporate this kind of creative experiences during their stays. So, basing us in this observation, we can find creative tourists among the single tourism, among the performing tourism, the cave-friendly, the gastronomic, the linguistic, the active tourism, the MICE, the wine tourism, and the tourism and dances, which is really another target, very important as well, because the school dances are always looking for festivals or places to bring their students, their pupils in other destinations and spend creative holidays. Creative tourism can be applied as well to senior tourism, sketch tourism, study tours, and of course, sun and beach tourism. Within the creative tourism, we find the PANK, the professional own snow kids, that look for this kind of activities to make something different because they don't know how to behave with the nephews, so they look for creative activities. The multi-generational tourists that don't gather only for Christmas or no longer gather for Christmas but want to spend holidays all together, and creative tourism is a good opportunity for them to find common activities that fits to all the generations. Of course, the millennials, and there will be 68 million in 2030. So how to reach them? We have seen it this morning through the social networks, because it's a very segmented sector, through the newsletter, press campaign, participation in congresses, partnership with other sectors and tour operators, and press trips we organize regularly for the journalists to experience those kind of opportunities. And the challenges, to conclude, which are, to realize that this is a process, this is a very fast process to which we have in which we have to react, because the tourism sector is really changing and we have a new demand. Also, to find a balance, to package those experiences between authenticity but also professionality, and to have an important role of mediator in order for all those sectors to combine perfectly within the tourism sector. So for one of these reasons, we have created the Creative Tourism Awards that are still open to entries until October 27th. If you want to apply, it's a very simple form you have in the website, the section Awards, and it awards creative residency, destination, creative experiences, strategic project, and media. To conclude, we say that we are in the industry of tourism, but it's now the industry of the emotions. And regarding the creative tourism, well, it's a projection of a new tourism in which natural, cultural, and personal resources are not manipulated or exploited, but valued or enriched. So it came from a long while, from Confucius, and we are sure that it will long last, because creativity is the main elements of this kind of tourism. Vielen Dank.